When I first became a fellow of New College, the fellow in law there, an academic lawyer called Tony Honoré, said to me, "Do animals have law?" And I wasn't really able to give a straight answer to that. I was impressed with Rebecca's historical demonstration of the way things improve, and obviously Steve Pink has written about this. He got it from me.
Now we know.
And I've long felt that the way I put the same point is that we who live in the early 21st century are labeled as 21st century moralists, people with 21st century values. The difference between the extremes of today, the George W. Bush or the Donald Rumsfeld of today, and the more progressive elements today, is smaller than the difference between the anybody today and anybody not just 100 years ago, maybe even 50 years ago. It's dramatic the way our moral values, the ones that everybody accepts, not the ones that we reason about as moral philosophers, but the ones that simply are part of the culture, part of dinner party conversation, just the ordinary assumptions. In the 19th century, T.H. Huxley, I suppose, was in the vanguard of progressive liberal thought. But it would never once have occurred to T.H. Huxley that black people were remotely comparable to white people in ability. It was just a given. And Huxley used rather sort of patronizing language about black people. So we're all changing from century to century, from decade to decade. And this seems to be, as Rebecca said, a kind of not totally irreversible process, but there's very little evidence that it's ever reversed. Now, if we extrapolate into the future, Peter Singer's not here, but I'm very struck by the fact that the whole conversation is about maximizing happiness, the greatest number. There's an implicit human stuck in there, and when you think as an evolutionist, there doesn't seem to be any reason to do that. I mean, it's almost just that it's a historical accident, a very convenient accident, that all the intermediates between ourselves and other species happen to be extinct. That's why we're able to talk about morality as though it was a purely human problem, as though the only alternative to we're just arguing about whether we go with Stephen Weinberg and say we look after our own family, or we worry about the people starving in India or something. What about the other species? I'd just like to add one thought, since I've been asked about animal behavior. When you take Bentham's famous remark about the question is not can they think, can they reason, but can they suffer? If you actually ask what suffering is for, what the Darwinian function of suffering is, it's clearly to teach a lesson to the animal, don't do that again. If you've just done something that gives you pain, don't repeat it. And that has obvious Darwinian value. Now, if you ask yourself, those species that can think and reason, how much pain would they need in order to deter them from doing something silly again? The answer is surely, or at least we should consider the answer to be, they need less pain. If they can think and reason, then it should take a less painful stimulus to put them off doing the silly thing again. Whereas an animal that cannot think and reason, or is very poor at thinking and reasoning, is going to need more pain. And so far from assuming that a species which can think and reason probably has a greater capacity to suffer, which we, I think, unconsciously all do, we might actually at least consider the opposite proposition, that a species that can think and reason has less capacity to suffer. I'm not necessarily arguing for that, but at least it's something that we should consider without just ignoring it.